Hello, how are you?
What's happening, brother?
Hey, so it's all going very well. How are you, man?
I'm good. I'm good. Just I'm one cup of coffee in, and after this one, I'll get another one. And I've done one interview, so you're number two, my final one for the day, and I'm ready to talk some bollocks.
That's excellent. Last time we spoke, you were in your son's bedroom. And this time, this is very different. This looks like this looks like a quaint English stately home. A beautiful.
Hey, well, it's a little office that we've made in our house that originally was just a balcony, and we never used it, and it was all dirty, and it was cool. It had these doors that opened up, but we just never used it. And so my wife and I were just kind of bursting at the seams in our house, and so we had the idea of creating this kind of. I'll just, I mean, it's really it's not very big. That's the windows,
Yeah.
and then that's a dining room, and then
Right.
so it kind of goes. It's just a small little room, but it's our office, and I have done a lot of interviews here, and it's cool. My desk is here, and it's pretty messy right now, but I, uh, I like sitting here, and the windows go outside, and it's great.
Yeah, no, it's lovely, and
Little chandelier,
the chandelier is very Agatha Christie. I'm loving
yeah,
it.
all
Yeah.
right. That's awesome. Well, I would love if I was looking out to the English countryside right here, and I would be stoked. That would mean I was in Britain and hanging out or
Well,
doing something, but I would love
yeah, to,
that.
to be honest, right now, I think you'd like the weather that you've got. You know, you'd like that a lot more.
Well, it's
Um,
actually very cloudy the last couple of days here in LA, which is great because it's been like a million degrees, um the whatever. I mean, we're in a really kind of somewhat dire scenario here in California, and also the Southwest in general of the United States, and we're in bad droughts, a lot of wildfires. Most of them are up Northern California right now, like the major sequoia trees that are just have been there for like thousands of years are being threatened, and they're like monster trees that are just incredible. And I think Mother Earth hates us right now. I don't blame her. I think she just looks at humans as like, you guys suck. You
yeah,
guys suck.
yeah.
And
Well,
guess
it's
what? In
well,
the
it's
end, she'll have the final say anyway. So people are like, oh, the earth is going to keep on going. It's us that are going to be in.
dude, you're singing the same song as I am, which is like when people say like, "Oh, Mother Earth is dying." No, Mother Earth will be here for billions of years after
Right.
we've gone. It's the what's dying is the optimum conditions for human existence, and because we're so arrogant, we call that the planet dying.
Right, exactly. And we're taking a bunch of animals with us, which sucks, and they don't want
Yeah,
to. They're like at our mercy. Um, yeah, I mean, look, everything's political these days. You can't get into a conversation about anything with it.
yeah,
People's I'm a guy who kind of rides on the middle anyway about stuff. But I'm pro environment. Who's not into the environment? Like, I mean, God, like, how
yeah,
is that a political like?
yeah,
If you have children, don't you care about what they are inheriting? Like I'll be dead. I'll be, probably 30 years, man. If I'm lucky, knock on wood, I'll make it that long. And then, chances are I'm gonna be gone. But they're gonna be here, and if
yeah.
they want to have kids, can't we like do the right thing by the environment? And couple that with try not to eradicate industries for people who have work. I get that. I'm there's got to be a transition period to help people to with things that aren't good for the planet, but yet we don't want to put thousands of people just on the streets, because in LA we already have thousands of people on the street, which is a whole nother ball of wax. But it's find that medium. We're smart, humans are smart, come on, figure it out. Can we find a way to bridge that? But we can't just sit here and go, oh, we're going to keep using coal because otherwise all these people are going to be out of work. No,
Yeah,
find a way, transition them to something else. It's
yeah,
like having a house that's full of asbestos and go, well, this is how the house was built, so I'm just going to live in it. It's like, no,
yeah.
man, it's asbestos. Like you're gonna get cancer from it. You don't want to live in it. Like what? Anyways, stupid. Sorry, I got
No,
on a box.
no, man, no. I think that, you know, every single point you made there is perfectly valid. It's just that everybody also wants to see change tomorrow. No matter what it is, whether it's the environment, whether it's inclusivity, whether it's, no matter what it is, everybody wants change tomorrow.
True.
And there just seems to be like an unwillingness to accept, you know, hey, do you know what? Let's make a start, but change maybe not tomorrow, you know, just hang in there. And yeah, it's great that people are beating the drum saying this is not enough, this is not enough. But by the same token, you know, they're the people who drive things and keep things going. But you know, everything takes time.
No, that's completely true. That's what it's funny because I used to call my son immediate gratification man, because that's with the world, with these and this, you know, everybody just, you know, immediately they can get something like it, you know, oh, I want to go to that restaurant. I wonder let me find out how it is, you know, like everything's at your disposal. So it's created this world of having immediate gratification or immediate information. And I agree with you. Some things take time, but that's the modern world we're living in, where everything is just so immediate that you feel like you need that kind of like I said, that kind of reward or information or something that allows you to think that this has to happen now. And I agree with you. Things do take time, and patience is okay. I mean, certain things we need to be a little less patient with, because cities are underwater. Like, I don't really know how people are going to live in New Orleans anymore, because it's just getting crushed every year by hurricanes. And it's a shame, because New Orleans is a really awesome American city, because it's really unique and, has this kind of, gothy world to it, and it has the Southern Jazz Association. And, so it's a really special city, but it's going to be underwater, and it's just, and they got to figure a way to fix it. And I don't even know how.
And the weird thing is, when you were talking there about that, and like my mind was kind of running away with, wow, what if, are we coming to a point where these kind of just major cities are going to become, uninhabitable because of weather? And we're looking like, maybe this keeps going the way it is 10, 20 years in our lifetimes, to knock on wood, hopefully in our lifetimes, we are going to start seeing, literally cities being abandoned and people just saying, look, this is, we're done here. Well, and that is some kind of, that's some kind of horrible futuristic sci-fi movie I've seen, I'm sure.
Yeah. I mean, the truth of the matter, you got cities like Phoenix and Las Vegas, and they're great cities, for the most aspect. But I really don't know if those are places that were millions of people were really supposed to be living, because it's the desert and there's no water there, and it's 120 degrees in the summer. So I don't really understand that building this major metropolis in some of these places, it makes any sense. It just probably never did. But yet, and that's where people are kind of relocating in America, because they're like, they don't want to live in the freezing cold of like Buffalo, New York anymore. So they go south, and that's a kind of the migration that's been happening in America. However, if there's no water, there's no water. You can't live there. You can live without oil. It will be hard, but you can't live without water. So, if there's no water, you're going to have to rethink living in these places, and or just build tunnels or these pipelines, and that's what the new thing people are talking about. And granted, rivers come from up north and they bring water and dams and stuff. But if you have to build dam after dam after dam, perhaps the question is, should people really be living there?
Yeah,
and
just
that same, it might be a question mark itself.
It's one of those, just because we can, it doesn't necessarily mean we should.
That's true. Exactly. Good point. Exactly.
Yeah. It's like if you're building a pipeline hundreds of miles to a place that has no water, I don't know, maybe there's not supposed to be anybody there.
That's true. Well, we'll see what happens. It's a work in progress for us humans.
Yeah, and it always will be. It's like the great Bill Hicks once said, we're just a virus with shoes. That's
Wow, that was way ahead of its time, actually, right?
oh man, yeah. The man was way, way ahead of its time. And watch this for a segue. Speaking of being ahead of its time, the album Symbol of Salvation. See what I did there? The album of the album of Symbol of Salvation, believe it or not. Well, actually, you wouldn't believe it because I'm just going to tell you straight out. We were label mates when that album came out because I was in Acid Rain on Music for Nations. On Under One Flag, which was an imprint of Music for Nations in Europe. And I think, you were on music. I think you were on the main Music for Nations label when this came out in Europe.
When maybe they distributed Metal Blade.
Yes, they did. Yes.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah.
Memory serves me back 30 years.
Yeah. I know what you mean. But I was.
And what band? What were you in?
I was a band called Acid Rain. Rain was spelled REIGN.
Cool name.
Thank you very much. But all those years ago, we were label mates, and I remember getting this album because I was on the label, and you know what it's like. You go see the label, and you come out with an armful of stuff that costs nothing, and you think, well, even if I don't like it, I can give it to my friends,
right? Or take it to a record store.
Oh, surely not.
Yeah, surely not. You never did that.
No. I never got armfuls of limited edition Metallica vinyl and made a bit of extra cash. No.
Wow, that you might want to keep.
Yeah. But I was reading over the press for this release, for the live release, and there was, being a guy who fronts a band that has been around many, many years, I recognized some of the things you were saying. And one of them was getting a chance to perform this album and playing songs for the first time all these years later, and kind of being amazed that you're playing some stuff for the first time, and the fact that you're actually got a chance to play it all those years later, and that there's crowdfuls of people who want to see it, and you're making a live album of it. If someone had said that to you 30 years ago, you'd been like, what, you crazy? And I really kind of resonated with me, because I think you go back all those years and you're so focused on what you're doing at the time. The future is just not a thing. But then when you get so far removed from it and you're looking back at it, it's great revisiting this stuff and sometimes kind of giving yourself a little bit of a pat on the back, saying, do you know what? Yeah, we did a good job there.
Yeah, well, I think that usually when you make a record and then you go out and play, you find a handful of songs that you're going to play, usually, especially if you have previous records. It's like your first album, of course, you go out and play the whole record. But when you already have a couple of records prior to that, you have to fit it into the set. And of course, you want to play new songs because you just made this record. So you want to play it. You want to focus on new songs, but you don't also want to dog the old tunes and, the old guard. So, it's just you're bridging that together and finding a happy medium there. But there certainly were tunes that if we played once or twice, that might have been the only amount of times that we played them. So to go back and do this whole record in its entirety of the tour, it was fun to really bring those tracks live and in a rehearsal setting, and then going and playing them live and playing these songs that we, like I said, we just hardly ever played. Rain of Fire and Last Train Home, we played those songs, Tribal Dance, many, many times. But Another Day and Truth Always Hurts and Burning Question and Hanging Drugs, these are songs that we just really hardly ever played. If we played once, maybe. And so it was really cool to play those tunes live. And then in with those other tunes, that's what made it really special. And I've been saying, as I've been doing interviews for this record, is that it just is a really broad album for a hard rock metal band. It's just really versatile. It's really kind of, we take a page out of all the old bands that inspired us, the UFOs and the Scorpions and albums like Love Drive and Jailbreak and you can go back to like Sad Wings of Destiny and all these records that were versatile for a hard rock metal band, and Lights Out. And that's kind of what we always wanted to do as a band, is be a band like those bands, because we love those bands so much. And so You know, and I think that we were able to kind of do that. We did it our way, of course, the Armored Saint way, but we did it. You know, we were a band that really kind of pushed the boundaries on our style, and that was what we always wanted to do. Sometimes we couldn't figure out exactly how to get there, and we stumbled along the way for sure. But I think that's what we always wanted to do. And if I take the last record we did, Punching the Sky, I think that's the ultimate exclamation point on what our career has been, which is taking chances, pushing the boundaries of being this hard rock metal band, and just broadening our style. And you know, if we ever did something that we thought, well, maybe that's just a little too far out, I think we were honest with ourselves, and we pull it back in. But it wasn't that often. And you know, I think we're confident in ourselves that we think that we could do that.
Yeah, and it's funny because there's something else that you said in some of the press I've read, which you've kind of touched on there, and I kind of pride myself on this, and I was nice to see somebody else bring it up. I consider myself one of the most objective fans of my band that there is. You know, I mean, you've got to be a fan of the band you're in, otherwise you're in the wrong band. Yeah. But also I think it's really important to be able to do a complete 180 on that, and look at what you're doing as a fan, and be objective and go, do you know what I mean? Because I think that is so important, because that helps you maintain perspective. It's very easy to just get wrapped up in what you're doing and think everything is great.
Right. And especially, you know, years later, because let's face it, it's been around a couple of well, not a couple, we're talking about almost going on 4 decades here.
Yeah.
You have a lot of history and a lot of things to look back on. So, I'm not suggesting any band in particular, because I don't want, I mean, the last thing I want to do is bust anyone's balls, but the reality is, I think a lot of bands, they don't, the newer records are records they probably just didn't put enough into, and thought, okay, I can get away with this. And, you know, it sounds like this band, and the material sounds like this material that we've always done. So I think that's good enough. And I think that's just never been the case for us, because, you know, we want our last record to be on par, if not better than our first record. And we want to put the energy that's needed to make that, because we know everything that went into those records. So we have to give it the same energy and effort. You know, and you have to push yourself even more when you're doing newer music, because times have changed, and, you know, you're not in the same kind of peer group anymore, and everything's morphed. So I think you do have to push yourself as a musician when you're making records years later, or not, or not, you know.
Yeah.
And so you have to be honest. And trust me, when me and Joey work together and he's recording vocals of mine, there's times and I'm like, it sounds good. And he's like, not good enough. And I'm like, dude, really? And he's like, you could do it better. And I'm like, really? I think it's good. No, I think it could be better. And I'm like, dude, all right, let's do it. And, you know, in the end, you're always happy that you did. Maybe not at the moment.
Yeah. Do you know what? I'm exactly the same. And I think when recording vocals, I don't know if it's, personally, I think it's so, I would say this being a singer, but I think it's so unique, because you make, you know, it's noise you're making with your body, for God's sake. Yeah. I'm not, you know, you're not hitting anything, you're not strumming anything. And it's so objective that for me, I just think I've come to the conclusion, I'm just too close to what I do to actually be able to go, yeah, that's the one. You know, I've now got to a stage where I think it has to be so collaborative that that takes a bit of pressure off me as well, because I feel like we're working as a team, as opposed to I'm going into the booth as a boxer and I got to fight my way out of that box, you know, and everyone's against me who's out there, which is definitely something that, you know, I've done in the past. But I think when it becomes a collaborative thing, that's when when someone else gets the best out of you, because they take you places you wouldn't push yourself.
Right. It's I just think that there is a fine line, because the more people that you get into that collaborative process, the more things could get diluted, and then you're bouncing with many opinions, and that
Yeah, yeah.
a little dodgy right there.
I,
So
I should have been clear. I meant
yeah,
collaborating with one person.
it could be more than one. It could be two, because it might be. But it's just, yeah. I really believe honestly that some of the best songs, at least myself, I feel like the best songs were ones that kind of happen easily. I think the
Yeah,
more you have to kind
yeah.
of beat a song and rework it, I think eventually you just like it, you get to a point where you're kind of like, I don't even know what we're doing anymore with this, So I think it, again, this is just me. I mean, Paul McCartney and John Lennon may completely disagree with them, and rightfully so. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, I think, and for my career, at least, and when I look back on, it's the songs that kind of, almost like I said, they kind of write themselves. I
Yeah.
think those
Yeah.
are the best songs.
Without a doubt.
It might not be as simple as ABC done, ABC done. It could be. It may take some time to get there, but
Yeah.
like the ones that you have to rehash, I think that you almost have to start over again, and then go.
You're talking my language. There is one song on one album that I'm just like, no, sorry, I can't play that fucking song, because it never made it. We should never have put it on the album. It's just we reworked it and we reworked it and we recorded it, and everyone went, yeah, it's great, and I just have no love for it, because
But you know what? On the flip side of all that, I also think that once it's done and once it's released, and it's out, I accept it. Because I think there is a certain amount of acceptance that you have to have what you did, because everything might not be, let it be or something, man. You're just like, it's
yeah.
just not the way it is. So and all I can tell you straight up about a song I don't like, and within seconds that you can have an Armoured Saint fan saying that's my favorite song. And I'm like, okay, so cool. So that's why, it's, I just felt like, hey, for me personally, that song maybe didn't cut it, but it's still part of that album. And if somebody loves it, great, so.
Yeah. Do you know what? You're absolutely right. I mean, it's a personal thing to me, but I would never say what that song is publicly, because some fan hears it and goes, oh, I love that song. And it's like, oh, sorry. Yeah, I've just needlessly pissed on your opinions there.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Why reveal that? Let them live in it, let them live in that. So
yeah. No, I know what you mean. But I also putting this album out, I think is, and the extra tracks and stuff that Dave plays on, that's kind of incredible, isn't it? That brings a whole kind of uniqueness to the project as well.
Yeah, it was songs that we wrote during that period. So that's why, obviously they didn't make the record. And, in retrospect, I don't think they were as on the same level songwriting wise. However, they did have their own special little charm. And that's why putting them out and having Dave actually performing on them, and they never really were on vinyl, which is really another cool thing. I mean, if somebody told me that when we made Symbol and these other tunes that never made it, and we recorded those on a 4-track cassette 4-track. That's how they were recorded. If somebody told me that they're still going to be on a vinyl one day, I would probably say, not those songs, man, not those songs. But here they are, and it's really cool. And I have to give tons of credit to really Tracy and Metal Blade and Brian to be able to do that, because they are always looking for inventive ways to kind of put the new package out of something old and something cool, and you just off the chart stuff with that, and it's great. I love it. So it's really cool, and I love vinyl, and I'll be excited to hear those songs on a vinyl record myself, actually.
I had Brian on here a couple of weeks ago, and he was talking excitedly about the whole package. And of course, you've just reminded me that, like, when the album was coming out originally, that's when everybody was turning their backs on vinyl, and it was kind of like, CD and cassette only. That's an amazing.
I still like CDs too. I purchase CDs and I listen to them in my car. I still like packaging. I know that, now that's not environmentally friendly, but I mean, nothing beats an album. The big packaged album cover. I mean, it's the best. Still to me, it's the best. But I still buy CDs because I listen to them in my car, and I always feel like, for myself, I'm more connected to a record if I have the aesthetics of the actual product. If I just download something onto, you know, the hard drive or whatever, well, I still have an iPod, but which I love, but I just don't feel as connected as if I purchased the. See, look here, check it out. Right here, it's right here. Here's a bunch of CDs of things I bought recently. It's Joe Bonamassa. I got Hailstorm,
Nice.
Chicano Batman. You know, this band Blitz and Trapper, which is a cool like bluegrassy band. You know, these are, I buy the CD, I listen to it in the car for a while, and then eventually what they'll do is they'll make it onto the hard drive that I have, and then that goes into the iPod. But I need to be able to like open this up and, you know, read the lyrics and once maybe. And it's probably only once, or the credits. You know, I still as a fan want to be connected that way. It's important to me.
I totally agree, and I'm a big fan of the CD as well. That's my format, because as much as I love vinyl, you can only listen to a vinyl album once. The next time you listen to it, there will be a scratch somewhere. Doesn't matter how careful you are, and that really pisses me off.
Yeah.
So I have to have CD, because otherwise, I mean, otherwise I've got 4 or 5 copies of my favorite albums, and it's just ridiculous.
But you got to take care of them. That's the thing, and they are a little more fragile for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. But CD, you're absolutely right. CDs in the car, that's what it's all about for me. I'll get a new album, and that's where it gets its real testing ground. You know, it's in the car. You just can't beat a CD blaring in the car for it, like you're doing a road trip or you've got a long day ahead of you, whatever it is. And having kind of like having my friends on my passenger seat stacked up, you know, who's going to get played next?
Right. It's fun. That's still fun, you know. And it's crazy because a lot of cars aren't even made with CD players anymore. A lot of them.
Yeah.
My wife and I have a minivan. That's how we roll with our minivan, because we have kids and
cool.
You know, we were tooling a lot of my son's friends and daughter's friends around. Well, my daughter's driving now, so she has her own car. But yeah, a lot of cars don't have CDs. But this one, it's a Bluetooth, so it plays CDs. But it's sometimes weird, like it won't, like I don't know, somehow. Not a Bluetooth. I'm sorry, Blu-ray. Excuse me. It's a Blu-ray. So it plays them weird sometimes. Sometimes it won't work all of a sudden.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird. So, but when we got our car, I was like, we have to have a CD player in it, because I spent a lot of time in my car listening to music.
I have a 2013 model of a car, and it's the very last version before they remodeled it. And the next sort of iteration of that model, they did away with the CD player. So I don't know what I'm going to do after this car, you know.
It's a trip. One of my daughter's friends, we just saw her the other day, and she went to some show. They have shows here at the Hollywood Forever Cemetery, which is a place where they actually have gigs. They do it in the mausoleum, which is really cool. I've been to a show there once before, and you know, it certainly has a vibe. There's a lot of famous people buried there, and it's right in the middle of Hollywood, but it's a big grounds. And she went to a show there recently. She goes, "Oh, I got a cassette from the band." And I was like, "Cassette, all right, man." Cool.
Yeah. It's like it makes you feel young again.
I mean, cassette sounded like crap. Let's face it.
Yeah, it's the worst format ever. The worst format ever. I always say to people, it's like, "Oh, I love cassettes." Really? Did you love it? Did you love it when a friend came around? You say, "Oh man, you've got to hear this song on this new album. Just give me 10 minutes while I find it." You know?
Right, exactly. That's true. And you know, you never failed how the tape got stuck, and you know, and it's got jacked up, and then during that part of the song,
yeah. All of that.
You know, they're part of my youth.
Although I have to say, like you were saying about that 4-track cassette earlier, some of the old demos that I have, like from like late 80s, they still play. Yeah. And they I mean, they don't sound great because they're a cassette, but they still work, you know. And as always, is good enough to kind of lift it digitally and then try and brighten it up somehow. Right. But it's amazing that those formats have stood the test of time, and you know, last through even to today, even as something as flawed as the cassette is making a kind of return.
Well, you know, when we made Civil Salvation originally, we wanted Dave's lead from Tainted Past to be on it, and because it was such a great lead, and it was recorded that way. And this is pre-Pro Tools. So when Joey, and at the time Brian Carlstrand, who unfortunately has passed on in the last few years, when he was the engineer of that record, and they spent probably about 5 hours or so getting that onto the version of Tainted Past that we had recorded in the studio for the record, and the tempos weren't quite right, and this is, you know, they had to match it, and in the end it sounded amazing, and Dave was on the record, and it was just spectacular. But that was a very painstaking circumstance to make that happen.
Oh yeah. I mean, this all kind of gets lost. I mean, you know, the generations of recording, the way it's changed. I mean, you know, we recorded our first album on a 16-track desk that was about the size of one of the walls of my house, you know. And you know, literally it comes to doing a mix, and you've got people all over the desk, you know, with little marks as to where they've got to move like faders to and everything else. It's like, you know, you're working as a team just to get that final mix of one song, you know, down so you can save it. Where and like you say, the hours that must have gone into piecing that solo together to actually make it work back in those days, that's above and beyond the Call of Duty, man. That really is.
Yeah, it was a lot of work, and I really commend them for doing that, making that happen. And like I said, in the end, it was really cool because Dave's is on the record, and that was awesome.
And even more so with the new stuff. And I mean, I think it's a great idea. And of course, the fact that you've got to play these shows in 2018, and then, you know, 2020 happened with the lockdown and everything else, that must have made it, that must have been given it a certain element of kind of like, wow, I'm really glad we did that when we could.
Right, that's true. Yeah, because we have been sitting on this for a while, of releasing it as a DVD, you know, live record. That was the objective when we recorded it and filmed it, and that was around 18. So we knew that we wanted to do that. It was just about when we were going to be able to actually make it happen. And now it's finally done. And you know, coincidentally, it's cool because it does come out in 21, and that is 30 years from when the record originally came out. So it found its way, and you know, here we are with Symbol, and it's really cool.
So you're looking forward to playing some shows, because you're playing in December with what an awesome bill: Black Label Society, you guys, and Prong, who are one of the most underrated bands in the history of any genre.
Yeah, great band. It's gonna be fun. You know, we have obviously lots of respect for Zach and all the stuff he's done on his own, and of course with Ozzy and just his career in general. And to go out and be playing some shows will be really exciting. It's only 5. It's on the West Coast. LA is one of them, which is at the Wiltern, which is a killer venue. I've been to many shows there. I just saw Go Bordello there about 2 weeks ago. It's one of my favorite places to go, and I've never played it, so I'm real excited about that. And it'll be fun. It'll be fun to rock out, and it should be a great bill, and it'll end the year nicely, even though it's only going to be, like I said, a handful of shows, but it's going to be fun.
Yeah, no, you're playing kind of like towards the end of the year, aren't you? You're nearly playing a New Year's Eve show.
Well, we are playing New Year's Eve shows.
Oh, right, you are. Right.
It's the 27th through the 31st. It's 5 in a row. It's Reno, San Francisco, LA, San Diego, and then in New Year's in Phoenix. So I will be in Phoenix and New Year's, much to the chagrin of my wife, probably. But so.
This is exactly what I was thinking in the back of my mind. I was thinking, dude, you're a brave man. Yeah, but all the 5 days you could have picked to play shows.
Well, you know, I'm not, you know, these days of my life, I'm not a fan of doing too many gigs in a row. It's a little taxing on the voice, but yeah, is what it is. We're support acts, so we're going out there and we're opening, and you know, if he can do it, I can do it. You know, is the way I look at it, and so, you know, we'll roll. It's going to be fun. It's going to be cool to go out there and perform on stage. And I'm sure a lot of Armoured Saint fans are going to be real excited.
I think it's, you've hit on something there. It's like when you're younger, it's like, oh, God, man, I want to be headlining. God, well, why aren't we headlining this? We should be headlining this. Yeah. Why are we not headlining? And then the older you get, you're like, can we please support?
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
minutes, man. That's plenty for me.
yeah, yeah, I'm
It is,
done.
yeah, it is what it is. You know, the cymbal tour that we did was probably some of the longest shows we ever did, because we started off with the first three songs, which was March, Long Before I Die, and Chemicals. So it was like, well, first record, second record, third record, and then we went into the album. I kind of stole that a little bit from U2 when I saw the Joshua Tree tour. They did something like that, so I thought that was real cool. So I kind of lifted that for our thing, and then and then we did Symbol, and then we took a break, and then we went back and played like a handful of other songs from our career. So sometimes we clock in at about like an hour 45, which is pretty long for Armoured Saint to play. And
Yeah.
I know a lot of bands play along, but that's just, you know, for us, that was probably some of the longest shows we ever did.
No, I completely agree. I mean, that's like an hour and 45 minutes. That really takes it out of you. I mean, I've put it this way, I don't think I've ever played a show where we've played an hour and 45 minutes, maybe hour and 35, maybe something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like I had John Paul Jones go into, you know, the 30-minute no quarter solo in the middle of the show, or
yeah,
like when Zeppelin would play, and you know, John Bonham's, you know, 30-minute solo, and you know, I mean, it's pretty much song after song after song, so it's relentless.
yeah, man. And that's and certainly you know, certainly nowadays I certainly would not want to be doing that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, not unless I'm doing consecutive and alternate dates opposed to consecutive dates.
Right. Don't get me scared, and I'm going to rethink it. I mean, like, I don't know. I don't know. Yeah.
No, don't really. One last question I wanted to ask you was, I had singing lessons. Should I say that, or should I say I went to a singing teacher? I went to a singing teacher because you know, you're never too old. You're never too old.
Oh.
And this was probably about 18 months ago, just before the pandemic, and she pointed out some bad habits that I'd got into, which I was, as you know, as they happen over the years, you don't notice. And she pointed them out, and I was like, oh my God, really? Yeah, you're right. I am doing that. That's very silly. Do you kind of, are you at a stage in your career now where it's like, look, I know what I'm doing, you know, and I have my routines, and I'm good with where I'm at? Or do you still occasionally kind of, I guess it's that objectivity that we were talking about earlier. Are you still kind of sort of constantly examining what you're doing? I don't mean paralysis. I don't mean paralysis by analysis, but just kind of constantly sort of checking on yourself and like, you know, no, I'm good with where I'm at.
No, that's a good question. I like talking about singing. I think that I've discovered a lot of things just lately. You're always learning. You can never be too old to learn.
Yeah.
Certainly for me, I fall into that. But I think the key is to sing often. It's a muscle, so it's like anything else. If you take breaks or extended breaks, it'll atrophy, like your legs will if you're a runner. So the key is to always be running, or always be singing. And I think that's the key thing. I don't always want to be singing Armoured Saint songs, because you know, I'll burn out on them. So I just go through my catalog of music, and I'll just find records, and I'll just sing through them to them. And then when I'm ready to do, like, now that I'm probably gonna start singing the Saint songs now, because we're a couple months away. But I didn't want to burn out on, especially the new tunes.
Yeah.
And I really don't want to have to rehearse "Can You Deliver?" It's just like, but at the same time, I think the key is to find your sweet spots. I've done that. There's an area I think that I sound best in. It's like kind of this mid-range voice I got. Taking care of myself, you know, as best I can. And I don't do some of the extracurricular activities in my youth that I did. That probably are very detrimental to your voice. I like to drink. You know, I do like to drink. I don't drink too much, but I do. I have to watch. I have an issue sometimes with reflux that kind of jacks up my voice. So I try to watch what I eat. I have a little homeopathic, you know, thing that I do every morning, and I'm pretty religious about that. I usually warm up when I'm on the road of this, I have a vocal tape of warm-ups that I do in the morning. First thing I do, I wake up, I always dread it. It's like the last thing I want to do is like, or the first thing I want to do, should I say, is do this warm-up. I'm like, but I do it, you know, when I'm on tour, because I just know I need to. And it kind of sets the tone for my voice for the rest of the day. And then I think that's it. You know, another thing what I've started to do over the last couple of years, which I never did, which is like, is like about a half an hour before the show, I'll do like the first 5 songs of the set, and just backstage sing the whole song of like like I said, the first like 4 or 5 songs. And then so when I walk on that stage, I'm warm, I'm ready to go, which is it's very logical. Like, you know, the NBA game, guys aren't walking on, getting a ball and going, okay, tip it, let's go. And like, no, you're doing layups, you're doing stretches, you're doing things to prepare yourself to go into a game. Same as I'm sure soccer players, whatever. So I used to do a couple like shouts and then I'd be done. But, you know, and then I had it numerous times where people said, you sounded kind of in the first couple songs. Then you got warmed up and sounded great. And I'm like, well, yeah, duh. So I do that. I do the warm-ups, get the cobwebs out, as you will, and backstage. And then by the time I'm walking on stage, I'm warm. So I'm learning all these things, and I just discovered some of this stuff. So certainly not too old to learn. And I've taken lessons, things, because there was a couple dire times on the road. It's all about my voice, really. It is, because if I can't sing, you know, I'm miserable. I'm happy.
But also, if you can't sing, there's no show. And I've always been conscious. Now, this might just be me, but I've always, that, like, even as a kid, but in the back of my mind, it's like, and I'm constantly having to bat it away. You know, how's your voice? How's it feeling? What do you like? Because your voice goes, there's no show. And that is, and you know, I don't want to be Mr. Singer and LSD, lead singer's disease. But guys, that's a thing.
Well, I mean, and you know, look, I've done numerous shows in my life where my voice is trash, and I walk on stage going, "This is gonna suck," but I'll just muster through. And that's the way it is. And times where I thought it was actually damaging my voice, and one tour in particular, in Anthrax, where I was like, man, I just blew it out in the beginning of the tour, and there was no stopping the tour. So I mean, I get ready and go, okay, what do I got? And I'm like, oh, man, and I knew I had to walk on that stage, and it was horrible. It's
crushing.
It's brutal. But I just said, bring me down in the mix, and I'll just give it my best. And you know, I mean, I don't think people really remember. Of course, I do, but and you know what? Unfortunately, knock on wood, I'm hoping it'll never happen, but it will again. It will again. But but you know, it's trying to just. And plus, I don't want to overthink it.
That's another thing.
In the moment, and like you said, that's a good paralysis by analysis, and I can overthink, and so sometimes you just gotta like get out there, and adrenaline kicks in, and then you just go for it. And maybe you won't be at your highest level that particular night, but you still need to perform. Still need to, you know, it's not like we have an understudy. Hey, get the understudy in.
Exactly.
There ain't no understudy here, man. You just got to go do it, you know? So I'm always empathetic towards singers. And of course, the first thing I do when I go to a show, I was like, how does he sound? And I'm scrutinizing the crap out of him. But at the same time, I'm always empathetic. And if I could tell somebody's not quite there, I'm like, oh, man, poor guy, shit. You know, so bad for him. But we're good there. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's nothing you can do. Well, by the way, I've got to mention the warm-ups as soon as you get up. That's a great tip. I'm going to steal that. I'm going to use that. I already do the pre-show warm-ups, but I'm going to trade you because I've got something for you as well. But I loved the irony of the fact that you're when you're saying like doing your warm-ups or rehearsing, and the one song you don't want to rehearse is "Can You Deliver?" The irony.
Well, you know, again, it's only because I don't want to. I mean, look, I love playing "Can You" every night when we do, and you know, there's certain songs I wish I could retire temporarily from the set, and we do, and then bring them back. But you know, it's you know, when we play it live, it's always great. But you know, I don't necessarily want to practice it like really, but but I do sometimes still.
I know what you mean. There's some songs that are in you that have been in you for so long. It's like, oh, man, look, that song is for stage, and that's it. You know, yeah. Well, the thing I wanted to trade with you is, do you do warm downs?
I do. Yeah, I do. For sure.
Right.
You know,
Okay, cool.
right after the gig, you know, I had a teacher, and his name was Ron Anderson, great guy. I think he just taught a lot of people through the years. I haven't seen him in a long time, but I've called him periodically in some dire scenarios, and he's like, okay, this is what you do. And but you know, warm down was really essential that he told me, and I do it. And he said, you have about a 45-minute window. So like, you know, you don't have to do it the second you walk off stage, but you don't want to wait too long, because then it's not useful anymore. But yeah, you got to warm down. It's really crucial. And you know, the thing about the warm up is, because we're rock singers, so you belt it out, and the next morning you wake up, and you know, you're gonna be a little raspy. You've been on a bus in the air, and you know, maybe you had some food, or you know, a couple drinks. You know, you wake up, you know, your voice is like, so when you warm up, it kind of warms it. It warms it. And it's really, really very soft warm ups, very soft. So like, you know, you just get up and just really softly do your warm up, and then ease into it. And you know, again, it would be equivalent, like I said, of a guy waking up who played sport, and he, you know, just kind of stretch a little bit in the morning, just because your muscles would just logically be tightened up from the previous night.
And you know, that's an absolutely, I think that's a perfect comparison, because that's without doubt when you feel your worst. And that idea, I mean, so do you start with like maybe just even a hum, just something, right, and then kind of build up to something that's a little warm.
It's just always it really kind of helps.
Right, yeah.
You know, see, I'm a guy, I'm always a little bit hoarse, no matter what, you know, so I can get away with being a little more hoarse than normal. I don't have a super clean voice, and all of a sudden now it sounds raspy. I'm always raspy, but you know, I certainly don't want to be too raspy. But I feel like I'm, you know, knock on wood, man, I've been singing pretty well, and I'm real proud of myself. I think a lot of it is just the key is just to keep singing. So.
I look, you're absolutely right. I mean, literally, I played a show Sunday. We just a bunch of shows, a little run, and you know, slightly raspy, but I think I'm probably actually enjoying singing more now than I have for years. And I don't know if it's because I'm older, or also we're the kind of band that always has a pit and stage divers and stuff like that. Whereas with the way things are now, people are coming to shows, but that isn't necessarily a thing just that's coming straight back, because people are still a bit cautious.
Oh, yeah, of course.
So for me, it's kind of meant, right, actually, do you know what? I'm like, the vibe is slightly different, and the connection is slightly different now, because instead of people just being like a mass of humanity, it's now more individuals stood watching. So it becomes more of an eye contact thing, and dare I say it, as the singer of a thrash metal band, but it becomes about like connecting with people and singing to them, and as creating that connection. And it's been a very different experience, but it's kind of beautiful.
Yeah, for sure. You know, whatever is your place of like warmth, or whatever works best for you as a musician and as a singer and a performer, those are the things you kind of hone in on and figure out. And it is ever evolving for people. And once you kind of click into that, whatever that may be, performing live, performing in front of a big crowd, small crowd, studio, rehearsal, you're just finding your ways to just like hit those on the head. And however you do that is, I think you always feel good about it when you're able to connect those things.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's true of being in the studio as well. I mean, I have somebody, a producer, Jace Lewis, that just gets the best out of me. And it's the two of us in a studio, and that's it. And, you know, sometimes I'll push back a little bit, and sometimes he'll tell me that, like, no, that is the one, and that is the one we're going to use, and your opinion is not really needed here. But sometimes I kind of like that, you know.
Yeah, for sure. You know, that's great. You know, that's why he's a producer.
Exactly. And if you can get that kind of that push and pull right, and that trust of that trust in somebody, I think that is just that's key to delivering the studio vocals.
Yeah.
Because it's a completely different beast, obviously. I mean,
Absolutely.
it's like, if you go and if you sang a gig like you sang in the studio, halfway through the set, that's the end of the show, guys.
Right, right. And it's funny with live performances. I was just telling somebody the other day, is with YouTube and everything now, you can't have a bad gig anymore, man, because literally an
Yeah.
hour it's online and somebody's watching it, and it's like, man, it kind of sucks, because in the old days it's like, wow, that gig sucked, but shit, it's over. But not anymore. That
Yeah.
gig's
Yeah.
online, and so
Yeah.
as a singer, you're not even just a singer. I mean, guitar players as well. I'm sure, like, somebody's like, oh, you play the lead different, man. I don't like it as much, and so you just can't have one of those gigs anymore, because
Yeah.
with YouTube, I love YouTube. Don't get me wrong. I consulted a lot. Hey, what did we play on this show? And let's date, and it's awesome, especially old bands I loved, and you can look at shows. It's great, but you can't have bad gigs anymore, unfortunately. So,
Well, you're right, because we did a show fairly recently, and we came off stage, and everyone was saying, "Oh man, that was great, that was wonderful." I was like, "Yeah, I didn't really enjoy it that much. I mean, don't get me wrong, it was a good show, but I sounded like shit." And it was one of those shows where it's like, all day was in the back of my mind that it's going to be hard work tonight. And by I got to the chorus of the first song, I was like, yeah, this is going to be a long night.
right.
And they're all turning around and going, really? I thought you sounded great. No, wow, that was great. And then 2 or 3 days later, the messages start coming in. Just watch the show on YouTube. Yeah, I see what you mean. You didn't sound great, did you? I'm like, dude, I'd forgotten about that.
Right. I was going to bring that up, man. That's funny. Well, that's life. You just have this, like I said, usually the connection to athletes, because again, as a singer and drummer,
Yeah.
and
Boxing, man. Yeah.
And you're not always going to have a great game. That's the way it is. You're just not. I don't get the best. Michael Jordan did not have a great game every night. He just didn't. He had a great game most nights, but he didn't have a great game every night. And that's just life. So
and sometimes, if you're in a band, you're a team. And sometimes, man of the match is, your drummer or your guitarist, someone's not having a great show, so everybody else pulls together. And
that's a good analogy, because then it's like the other guy who took who got all the goals or something.
Yes.
Good job, man, because I was off.
Absolutely. It's like, thanks for saving my ass there, because I did not have a great time tonight. I know that.
That's funny.
Yeah. Oh man, look, I'm not going to keep you any longer. It's been lovely talking to you, John. It really has. And love to see you in the UK as soon as. But the way things are at the moment, let's just all play some shows and make sure we're all okay.
Yeah, 22 is, I'm being optimistic, and I love coming to Britain. I've always loved coming there, and in Saint and Anthrax, and the days I had there, and great, amazing shows, and it's just it's the home of metal. Let's face it. I mean, I'm not just brown nosing you because you're British, but it's just it really is. My favorite bands, whether they're hard rock or metal or pop or whatever, are usually British bands, and I always just feel this feeling of wanting to be in England and Scotland and Wales and all those places. It's always great to be in that place, in that neck of the woods, and I've had great shows through the years, and I look forward to at least coming in 22 and doing a few more.
That'd be great, man. That'd be great. It'd be lovely to see you guys over here, because Armoured Saint's not been to the UK enough.
Yeah, I know. Absolutely. Without a doubt. You're right. Exactly. I mean, the first time we ever came was in 1991, 7 years after March of the Saint came out, and then we played the Marquee. That was that was the first time we came, which was a huge, enormous mistake that we took that long. A lot of it was out of our hands, but I still to this day am pissed about it. So,
dude, it's almost like you're a bunch of delirious nomads.
yeah, well,
You see what I did there?
we're gonna use the tactic that like it was. We didn't overplay. How about that?
always leave them wanting more. Yeah.
There you go. So it's like people were yearning for it, and I have to say that because I'll be pissed that we didn't play more than we did. So.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. Well, look, thank you very much. Have a lovely day. Enjoy your Agatha Christie balcony.
Hey.
And hey, it's beautiful, man. It's beautiful. Right, and thank you very much for taking the time out to have a chat.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for a great interview. It was a lot of fun. And
no problem, man.
Pipes.
Thank you.
Take care of those pipes.
Yeah, you too, brother. You too.
All right. See you soon.
Take care, man. Cheers. Bye-bye.